I don't know why I'm not.
Yeah, people.
Well, I see a lot of video.
Yep.
So, all right. So here we are. It's 1 o'clock. I'm gonna keep admitting people as we go. They're popping up like crazy.
Yay.
Yeah, so I'd like to welcome you all to Experiencing Art Under Lockdown and Beyond, which is a topic that came up because Osceola Refetoff sent me a journal entry, and it inspired me to talk to him more about. I read the journal entry, and 20 minutes later, I called him back, and we had a long conversation about it. And then Laura Grover collaborated with us to present it, and we gathered Claudia James-Bartlett with us, and Tarrah Von Lintel. Claudia James-Bartlett runs Photo LA. She's the owner and director of it, which is the largest, I believe, the largest photography, longest running photography convention fair that we've ever had, I believe. And now she's running something called Virtual Connect Plus Connect, which is June 27th and 28th. And Osceola Refetoff, to go back to him real quick, he's the outstanding series winner on Open Walls Arl, just announced yesterday, I believe, which is sponsored by the British Journal of Photography. It's a very prestigious award. I want to congratulate you on that. I love that image too. I actually have a copy. And Tarrah Von Lintel runs the Von Lintel Gallery after having a gallery in New York for a while, and at the Bendix building where I am located. And she's been doing a really killer quarantine photo series on her Instagram. Check it out sometime. So Osceola, I'm going to start with you. You're the inspiration for this thing. Tell us a little bit about how you came to this sort of topic. What brought you here?
Okay. Well, thank you for having me first, and I wanted to say welcome to all my friends. I really appreciate your support coming here to see us today. And I wanted to say, you know, we were living in a little bit of a strange time here, both as far as the world health crisis and also a bit of a crisis of conscience here in the country. And although we're not here to talk about that now, I think we all are responding to, you know, dramatic changes in the world. And what made me write this piece was that I was trying to figure out what kind of world we would come back to, what the world has to offer for art and artists today, how we're going to navigate the challenges at hand. And in particular, I hold very dear the ability to see art in real life. And I think that we can all operate together to make sure that that continues to be something that we can do.
Cool. Well, you know, I think one of the things that has really helped me, I mean, the main story here, I think, is trying to experiencing art in person, how that changes our view of that particular work or works. I'd like each of the panelists to talk a little bit about what that means to them in relationship to how they're coping with the present situation. How about Claudia? Osceola, we'll start with you and then we'll go to Claudia.
Okay, well, that sounds great. I'm going to try to share a screen here just for a second. I guess for me, you know, I've always been a firm believer in seeing art in person, and it's one of the great joys for me. And I also am a big collector. So it's really about keeping those two loves alive, even during this sort of challenging time. And I feel like it kind of breaks down into three parts. It's the near term, which is today. And I think as far as what today is concerned, what we have is online. And I embrace that because that's what we have. And I feel like obviously every artist, every gallery needs to maintain a well-executed, easy to navigate website. I see that everyone's sort of stepping it up a little bit in that regard and making improvements. But I think at least on the near term, that's what we have. And then moving forward, you know, there's going to be the intermediate term. And of course, am I screen sharing? Are you able to see the screen there?
Yeah, your screen's moving, like you're scrolling it. That's pretty cool.
So this is what we used to know. I think that in the near terms, very soon, I know that Von Lintel Gallery is going to be opening up shortly on the 20th, I believe. I think our next experience in the art world is going to look significantly more like this. And I think that's okay. I feel like, as Shayna wrote so eloquently in the LA Weekly, one good thing about galleries is you're not allowed to touch anything anyway. And I think that it will offer an opportunity for people to get out safely. And so I think we're going to be able to take care of that advantage. But I think that the final facet to all this is that not all artwork is good on screen. And in particular, Tarrah, I think, is super well equipped to tell us a little bit more about the kind of work that does work and doesn't work, and the challenges of moving part of her exhibition process into an online forum. I know that she just did like a reboot of her website, which looks outstanding. And I'm really curious to hear, a little bit more about the thinking that went into that. And so that's pretty much what I would have to say now. And I'm going to go back to being live here.
Well, very cool. So we'll switch it up since you mentioned Tarrah in your last part of your reply. We'll talk to Tarrah for a second, then we'll go to Claudia. And Tarrah, tell us a little bit about what your process has been in terms of online versus physical viewing, and how you must be very excited to open the gallery again, but also a little, I'm assuming, a bit nervous as well, perhaps.
That's for sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And I dare say that I kind of specialize in art that doesn't reproduce well online. So I've been actually facing this problem or seeing the problem get worse and worse over the last couple of years. Especially since social media has become so important and everyone is looking at most things on their phone all day long, which is why I guess it's over a year ago now, had an exhibition that was called Does Not Reproduce. And the idea was that I wouldn't put any images in on the web, which ended up not working, but the idea was to get people to come to the gallery. And I don't know about anyone else, but I've definitely felt that over the last, I'm gonna say 3 to 4 years, attendance in the gallery has waned significantly, especially from collectors. Artists seem to keep coming, but collectors don't. So I am very much looking forward to opening. Now let me go back. So I've always felt it was very important not only to look at the work in person, but actually to spend some time with it. Because as you said, in my book, good art gets better the longer you look at it. It's not a one flash kind of thing. So now that everything is completely focused online, of course, we have a problem. So I also went and updated my website so that I could provide many more images, meaning detailed images, in the hopes that if people are interested, that we can then sort of zoom in and get more of a feel of what the artwork is like. The opening on the 20th is going to be very interesting. We're going to try to do this along social distancing guidelines, meaning have a limited amount of people in the gallery. But one thing that I've already seen is after my email announcement that went out a couple of days ago, I've asked people to let me know when they're thinking of coming so that I can see if I can space things out. And I'm actually looking forward to this idea of people coming individually and allowing me to truly engage with them, as opposed to, let's say, an opening, which used to be hundreds and hundreds of people, and you can't really see the art, and you're paying your respect to the artists, but it's mostly a social kind of thing. So my hope is that we will go back to a little bit more of the one-on-one thing. Which I must say I've missed over the last couple of years. I used to have, my gallery space used to be much bigger before I moved into the Bendix. I had a whole bunch of employees. And so the larger the gallery gets, the more you are removed from from the customers at the end of the day, because I can't talk to everyone who comes in. But I'm actually looking forward to engaging personally with people who have already signed up to come to the opening, and I'm hoping that that will continue.
And well, that's a really interesting point you bring up. And Claudia, your position as director of Photo LA has always brought you in close contact with a lot of artists and collectors and gallery owners and all that kind of stuff. How do you feel about some of the things Tarrah was saying, and how do you feel your new event, Virtual Connect, will connect us to the experience of art?
Well, I think that I tend to be like a generalist. I feel that there are many different kinds of art and different ways of seeing it. And for me, it's always been about, seeing the work, knowing, trying to know what the artist was trying to say. Did they say it? And like, do I care about it? And then beyond that, like, are they adding to the lexicon? That's all, that's what inspires me, no matter what kind of art I'm looking at. And I think there's, like you were saying, saying before, there are some things that you want to see in person, and there's some things that you can see, digitally, and that there isn't a lot of problems with seeing it digitally. So, but I agree with Tarrah. I think with what her program is and what she's doing, I think it's a wonderful idea. And I know that she always has these innovative ideas. I mean, I've, seen her program over the years and know that and totally respect it. I just think it's another side to the coin. And what we're doing is basically because, we're doing an event, right? And I had a lot of, dealers, exhibitors who've exhibited in the past, but then also other people in conversations, on the phone with people, talk about the state of things and how difficult it was. And that's really what inspired me to go forward with doing a virtual event. I mean, also in tandem with that, the feeling that it could be done in a certain way, and it could be additive. That's not to say that it's, everything or the best. It's just that at this moment, that seems to be what we have. And then also, I kind of feel that in the future, that it is something that could be added on to a live event. And of course, fairs have always been, this place where people get together. There are collectors that come, they buy, the exhibitors put forth some of their best work often, sometimes not, but sometimes, oftentimes yes. And I think that it creates a lot of discourse. And so with this virtual event, that's what I'm looking forward to as well. We have a great lineup of exhibitors. We've also have museums that are coming in and doing, because as you know, they've been shut down. So they're wanting to have certain shows that they had in their program that were closed early or couldn't go to another museum. They want to present those things. The Getty's doing one. We have the Philadelphia Museum is showing work from their collection. And there are a number of others as well. I have to say, Tarrah's exhibiting at our, we're really happy to have her there. And I think it's a new experience. And, basically, I heard this need, and I wanted, with what I do, it's really about serving the exhibitors and the community as a whole. And so I just thought this was one way to do that.
Yeah, one of the things that's interesting to me that you said is that what you've done is normally you have your festival in January, but you've taken the opportunity that's presented by this pandemic to offer things during the time when it could be most utilized online because people are stuck at home, which I thought was really cool. And also our exhibit, is it still open to exhibitors?
No, it's close. I had went out to the dealers when I went out and I said, we will only accept a certain amount of dealers. We are at 73, and I had said 70, but there were a couple of exceptions I had to make. So I did, and I'm hoping the dealers will be okay with that, because I'm a big one. I want to keep my word to people. I don't want to, and I also think, so attendees will focus on those booths, those 3D booths. And along with, though, part of the wonderful thing about having these virtual exhibitions by museums is that they all will bring their counsels, who are very much invested in photography and invested also in collecting, quite frankly. So it's really about, this is also, I can see this as a huge opportunity for us, that we are here in LA, it's called Photo LA. We've always had an international flavor to us, sometimes more, sometimes less. This time we have far more international dealers. And I think that's really interesting as well, that, there's a change up there. But I still want to hold, I still want to have like the flavor of the West Coast, because I think that it's important for us to maintain that voice in some way.
Agreed, 100%. Just a little sidebar. My film festival has been located in Venice Beach for the last 6 years at a small 100-seat theater. And when and I serve on the board of the theater company and stuff like that. So when the director called me and said, Yuri, I don't think we're going to be able to do your festival. In fact, we closed down 60 events for our next 2 months in Beyond Baroque. I had to make a quick decision about what I was going to do. Was I going to postpone the event, or was I going to put it online? And of course, as I mentioned, I put it online. We have 92 films from 27 countries, and what's wonderful about it is now people can see it all over the world because of the opportunity that was presented. So I have a new clientele that's incredibly diverse. In fact, our biggest audience right now, tracking through our Vimeo watches, is Africa, which is really cool and really interesting to me, because I'm really excited to target places that I've never been, want to go to, and want to hear from. And we have anyway, the bottom line is that opportunity presents itself in very strange, unusual ways. And that brings up sort of this topic of the opportunity to collect. Because I've been online looking at all my artists' work and a lot of new artists' work, I've actually wanted to buy more if I could afford to, because it feels like an imperative for me to help my artist friends in one way or the other. If I can't, I'm trying to sell their work, yes, but also trying to expand my awareness of what's out there. And in previous panel discussions, what we've heard from very outspoken beliefs that you should try to look at everything. Max Presnel said that at Torrance Art Museum. He said, I try to look at everything because I don't want to miss anything, and that's my job as a curator. But in a way, owning work and having it in your house, especially when you're hidden and you're isolated inside, is a precious experience. So I wanted to talk to each of you about your collections and how that might have changed to you while you're inside. So I'll start with Tarrah, and just if there's any anecdote or any idea, what is collecting art in this period of time mean for you?
I have so much art. I have so much storage, and I love the work that I have, and I try to rotate it every once in a while, because I find that even if you move it to a different place within your home, that you see things differently.
Yeah.
Please mute yourselves, guys. People that aren't muted.
Sorry, it's just very disturbing when it's strange when the screen changes like that. I'm going to go back to, I just want to go back to something about what's happening or what's opportunities. One of the things that I've read over the last couple of years and trying to figure out how to deal with this online thing is that Artsy and all these companies keep telling you what collectors want is pricing information. It's been a huge no-no in the art world since ever.
What kind of information do they want?
Pricing information.
Oh yeah, of course.
Right? Because up until recently, nobody put any prices into on their websites. You always had to inquire. The idea was that you wanted the conversation with the people. But now I've started putting in prices in the emails when I send out emails with artworks. And I was very surprised that I had people who, I sold 2 things to LACMA and 3 artworks to the from an email.
Turn off your speaker, sorry.
In which I included the pricing information. And I have never had that kind of a response to an email before.
I'm trying to mute a few. That's a really wonderful point. I'm trying to mute as anybody who's not on our panel right now. Process of elimination. Hopefully, we'll get it sorted out. Meanwhile, how about you, Osceola? Because I mean, I've talked about my collection enough. I've got plenty of stuff, and I love it, and I reorganize it, and I get to look at it every day and grow fonder of it, and then grab new stuff and switch stuff around my house all the time. Osceola, you're quite a collector. I'm fortunate to be in your collection. So tell me a little bit about how this process of being isolated is sort of helping you think about
one of them. Well, it's always been hard for me to understand why everyone isn't lining up to buy art and collecting like crazy. I mean, for me, it's such a vital part of my enjoyment of life to be able to live with this work. And so it's always caused me some, I just can't quite understand why more people aren't. But it seems as though there's 1 or 2% of the people that have sort of caught the bug or interested in art generally, go to museums and that sort of thing. And that probably is not something that's likely to change. I would say that for me, the $64,000 question is, are people prepared to buy art online? Personally, I have, probably 100 pieces in my collection, of which 1 I've purchased online. And that was a piece that I saw at a gallery, the original, and it was a print of it. So maybe I'm not ready, maybe other people aren't ready. I'm curious about more expensive work and how it's gonna, there's a lot of challenges, I think. And what I wrote about in the piece is, I think there's a disconnect between seeing work online and wanting to own it. When you're in a museum and you're looking at a piece, you fully understand that's the experience that you're going to buy. If you're able to look at everything on the phone, whether it's a museum or gallery or whatever it is, what tells you that you now need to re-envision that as a real thing? And I think that that's going to be a problem to get over. And I also feel like just as far as getting people to purchase work, someone like Tarrah is instrumental at sort of connecting collectors to the meaning of the work and how it would fit so well in people's homes. That's what a gallerist does. And I think it's harder to do that online. Now, I recognize again that we're at this period where we're sort of, figuring things out and moving forward, and all galleries will have an online sales program. But I wonder how robust online sales are really going to be able to be. And I wonder, what concerns me is that people get used to looking stuff more online and not want to go back out to museums and galleries as much. And I think one of the challenges of selling work online is that there's so many images, hundreds and thousands. Every day we're just inundated with images. And I think from a collecting point of view, if you see too much work, if you have too many choices, it becomes like sort of debilitating to pick something. So I think one of the strategies that galleries and artists might sort of look into is to create personal viewing galleries for individual clients. So that you can say, we think that these 10 works would be of interest to you. Because otherwise, I think it can be a little bit overwhelming, especially seeing so much work without any context, just sort of going here and there. So that's my thought.
Yeah, it's funny that you'd mentioned that, and I'll bring this question to Claudia in a second. But it's funny you should mention that, because yesterday I was on the phone with an estate I represent, along with a gallery, a well-known gallery that has galleries all around the world, to pitch this particular female artist's work. She's passed away, of course, and we were asked. We were trying to figure out a way to assess their requirements, and so we decided to put together a portfolio of her body of work, overall body of work, which to pitch the artist to this gallery, and then narrow that down to a particular show. But in order to get the entire body of work in mind without giving them too much, we're going to pare it down to 30 or 40 images that can give an overall picture of what the artist is about. So your idea really rings a bell. So Claudia, tell us a little bit about what we were. Let's go back to talk a little bit about the aspect of purchase. And you're right now in the business of encouraging people to purchase online because of this new venture. And so how does this play out in your mind in terms of like the idea of experiencing work in person and getting it in people's hands?
Well, yeah. Well, I collect. I've collected since I was a teenager. My husband has as well, and so we have a collection. So I think part of the responsibility of a collector is to educate themselves in some way. And I believe you could educate yourself in several different ways. One is by buying what you truly love, and another is just going out there and saying I really love this and this resonates with me and I have to have this. And another one is to go to someone that you admire, you think like a dealer or someone in a museum, and talk to them about things and get their guidance in some way along with what what you love. And so I think that doing this online virtual event, I think is really it's an additive thing. I think 9 times out of 10, I think people who buy something, it resonates with them. They just have to have it. At least the collectors, that I've met, during the time of being in the art world. And so I think that's always going to drive someone in some way. And I think virtually, I think it can drive people to want something as well. I think especially that people have been, in their homes locked up. And I also, Peter, my husband, has this theory that he says, well, when Los Angeles becomes very interior, people will buy more artwork because they'll be living with it in their environment. And I think that there's some little bit of truth to that. So with this virtual event, I mean, it's kind of the same, but just in a different form. And it's for being an event producer and trying to enable people to have the tools to be able to sell, that's for the exhibitors, but for the attendees, it's about giving them information. It's about education. It's about them having an experience that drives them to want more, basically. So.
Yeah, I think one of the benefits of the online situation that we're in is that people have become much more informative. They have gathered together more information about the individual artists and presented that to the public in a very effective way for me. I find that the galleries that I respond to and focus on when I open up the million emails I get are the ones that are doing that are giving me a video inside the studio, or a journal entry even, or an essay that was written a long time ago about an artist by somebody in a magazine or whatever. The information that you can gather about an artist informs your decision about whether to buy. And for me, as a lot of people know, history has always been a very important thing for me. So if somebody can provide more physical context, meaning more sort of atmospheric ideas and understanding about that person their studio, the situation they lived in, or where they live now and how they operate. It provides me more of a comfort zone when it comes to wanting that work. I like to find out from artists like, Tanner Goldbeck is traveling across the country, and because I collect his work, I like to hear what he's doing. Little things like that. So I think the online experience can provide connectedness, as you say in your title for your project.
Well, and it's about community. I mean,
Yes.
to me, it's really about how we are disconnected in so many ways, that it's about, finding those ways to connect. I mean, I really feel that way. And I think that also inspires people to create. So
It certainly has. It certainly has most of my friends and myself. I mean, we're painting like crazy because we have all this time to look at our studio and, put it to use. So, Osceola, what's it been like for making art for you during this time in terms of the isolation and things like that? Because I know you've been very careful about staying safe.
Well, I think it's been a mixed blessing on many levels. I mean, I think I miss my friends and really miss going out to see artwork, but having the extra time has provided the opportunity to think more deeply about the work that I'm doing. As I've said before, I've been journaling more frequently, and journaling is something that I recommend to all artists just as a way to sort of explore new ideas and to really sort of get more focused in my understanding of how I'm spending my time and what things are advantageous. I would say that, as far as my career, it's always been this sort of like moving through different periods. And right now, because I've gotten a couple of awards and stuff, it's really been about, retooling my website and being super active on social media. I think that as far as the opportunity of these times as an artist, I mean, certainly make new work, but I think this is a good time to get people to know your work online, and maybe not a great time to sell work as much, but I believe me, I would love to sell some work. I just got off the phone with the gallery owner in Arles. So I was I won the Best Series award for the Arles 2020. Now, normally Shana and I would have already booked our ticket to Arles, and we would be going to the festival there. And being amongst 145,000 people, where you could have your work shown and being able to talk to people directly and stuff, which brings me to a new word I've come up with. You've all heard of the humble brag. I've come up with a new term for this kind of situation, which is the grumble brag, where you're like, this great thing happened, but wah, wah. So, but I did talk to the gallery director, and what they said to me is that a lot less people are going to be in Arles, but there's a lot more people in France that are going to be looking at their newspapers. And so she feels that the press there is going to be much more substantial, and I'll be able to reach a large online audience. And I think that's really what we have for the intermediate is maybe opportunities to reach audiences further away that we weren't able to for a while. But all this in the service of getting your art back into places and ideally sold. And I think that might be something that will continue to be a challenge online, although I do feel like we're making steps to make it, perhaps better.
Yeah, I think one of the opportunities that that the isolation situation provides to us, and one of the things we can offer people in our online displays, is more and better writing, which is one thing that came home to roost when you sent me your journal entry. And I found myself reading articles sometimes more than once because people are thinking more. They're thinking more clearly, I think, about what matters to them, what really matters to them, because you're forced to think in sort of, what's going to happen tomorrow. If we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, then work our butts off now and think clearly about what your responsibilities as an artist or as a gallery owner or as a historian or as a writer are, because those things will resonate with people now that they have time to take a look at them. So with that, I'm going to open up Laura is managing our questions. If you have a question, feel free to type it into the chat box at the bottom. I've noticed some really wonderful commentary in there. Laura, do you have a question from someone for us? And if anybody has a question, you can post it in the chat, or Laura will see if you raise your hand or something. But it's better to put it in the chat area because we'll know right away what your question is.
I
We have statements right now, not questions.
have a question for Tarrah, which has to do with
That's a very funny hand you just
right. I have a question. I have a question for Tarrah about
like Cosimo Cavallero's sculpture. Anyway, go ahead.
I mean, one of the things that I was thinking about in the piece was that everyone says photography is going to do the best online, and there's a mixed bag for photography in the sense that, yes, backlit images look good, but even not so great backlit images tend to look good, so it tends to democratize, sort of equalize really good photography and okay photography. And also, it does sort of contribute to like an avalanche of uncontextualized work that's just flowing by and numbing your mind. But perhaps photographers have it better than a variety of other kinds of artists. And I know Tarrah also deals with painting and stuff, but they're photographers themselves. Like the work you really need to get in there and see. So what about those people?
I'm sorry, what exactly is the question?
Well, tell us a little bit about the kind of art that can't reproduce, and are there any strategies for those people in this sort of world?
I mean, look, I tend to really like work that doesn't come too easily, that you have to work at. So if you look at things and you think, they make you ask questions. What is that? How did they do that? Those are all questions that make you want to discover more. So I will definitely continue to champion that kind of art. What I'm very worried about is that people are going to, and I think we're already seeing it, is people are making art that caters to the small screen on social media, meaning on the phone. And I hope I'm not going to offend anyone here, but many of you will know the artist's cause. And I think one of the reasons why this has become so popular in the last couple of years is because it works on a postage size. You don't need, anyway, so I don't really know, I don't really have an answer for you, but I will certainly try to continue to put art in front of people and lure people into the gallery to see it in person and spend time with it.
Yeah, I totally hear what you're saying, Tarrah, about cause in general, and a lot of other folks too. There is a tendency to sort of participate in something without even realizing it sometimes. And one of the things that you brought up and Osceola brought up makes me think of something that I might try, and I'm just riffing here, but what about a group of art by an artist that no one has ever photographed and you can't see unless you see it in person, and it will never be online and only certain people get to see it. Like that's a very elitist view of how to deal with the situation, but it's also potentially could garner some interest if the mystery is there, which is a sort of what we've been sort of circling around is why do people ask questions about the art that you show? Because there's mystery attached to it. There's a bit of a learning curve that's fun to have about a piece of art that doesn't reproduce well. And I don't know if anybody wants to talk about mystery or anything, but I'm still listening for questions. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, we have a few questions. Jody Benassi made the suggestion, what about offering a private dinner for 4 or 6 people with social distancing in the gallery that people pay to attend? So it would be a private reception and they're paying for an experience.
Dinner sounds dangerous to me, because it's the one thing you can't do with the mask on. But I like the thinking. We'd have to be kind of spaced a little bit further apart. I know Tarrah has done different types of salon type situations, and there's definitely unique challenges to setting something like that up. But going back to what you were saying, Yuri, Tarrah told me the best story ever, which had to do with when, before the internet, people would come into the gallery and she had the ability to show them work they hadn't seen, to see work that had never been exhibited before. And that gave her some status in the negotiation, because she had access to the artist and access to new work. And now if you do an exhibition and the artist has already posted everything on social media before the doors open, then the collector, and I'm quoting Tarrah here, and sorry to steal your story, but she was like, you would show them a new piece of work and they would say, yeah, I already saw that. So I think one of the things that as artists you can do is not show you burn one image for the, for the flyer or whatever, but I think we have to be a little bit more careful about showing work, before it's completed, and certainly before it opens in a gallery.
Yeah, I've been guilty of doing all the bad things, but I do feel that the point is super well taken. Claudia, do we have any questions for Claudia, Laura?
So here's a question that I just think is really interesting from Isaac Bialik. The advent of motion pictures was a new medium for artists to work in, and we got a lot of film art. Are we seeing a new medium coming to life, suited particularly to the virtual, disconnected, absent experience? Are we already seeing it? If we all get uploaded to hard drives and live in our minds, what will virtual art be a necessity?
Well, that's a lot to unpack, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, I can say that we're doing one panel discussion along with a 3D installation of video gaming art. So I find it really interesting, and this has been around a long time, and you can imagine how the progression of that kind of work has, once was like so pixelated, and then it becomes this other thing. And there's some artists who've been doing this for a long time and who are within, teach at Cal Arts, have their own practice, do all this other stuff. So I think, it's like to me, a lot of this has to do with, it's like the internet. You have all these different bands of different kinds of things. And so people are able to do all kinds of different things. And then you have people who are interested in what they're doing and, participate, follow along. So I think it is going to influence it. Is it going to influence it across the board? I don't think so, but I think in different realms, it definitely will.
Yeah, I was going to mention Tarrah's work in the online sphere, and where you're looking at it now, Osceola is graciously sharing it with us. And, I think that these kinds of solutions are going to be key to at least handling the near future. Laura, do we have any more questions? Because I think we're just about finished.
Okay, we have a question from Shana. What I'm worried about isn't so much collecting in general, but the collecting not new artists. So if you are familiar with someone already, you can risk a new work because you have a point of reference. Whereas with a new young artist has no traction, and that worries me going forward, the collecting of new artists.
I can answer that. I mean, the artists that I show are often very well established, but in some ways new, because they're not as recognized as other artists, and I want to tell people about them. And I totally get Shana's point and worry about it myself. And I think that the possibility of increasing the information about that particular artist, doing promotional work about, promotional videos or other kinds of writing about that artist's work can help bridge that gap that Shana's talking about. I'm hoping that it can.
I've heard from a lot of artists, younger artists, that have been selling gangbusters during this time, where some of them don't have galleries. They're selling on Instagram, Artsy, where they've paired up with someone. So I think that that's true, but I think also what's fed into that is that people do want things on their walls. And so during this time where they're looking at a blank wall, and so that's helped that. Hopefully, my great hope would be that, like, so this fed that, but like, then then there's work beyond that of, hopefully those people will continue to collect or be interested in the larger scope.
Yeah, I just noticed Dale Youngman says that Artsy has had 4 weeks of record-breaking sales, and she was talking about some sales that she made, and then so bravo, Dale, and but also my partner in the gallery, well, she Valda Lake of Wall Space just sold a big piece the other day, and she's been active online for a year and a half or so since she closed her gallery down on La Brea, and she said that she's found that the online experience that her situation was timed quite well to this pandemic, because she's got so much online, so much available for people to look at, and so any strategy that we can use. Yes, Tarrah, go ahead.
So my experience has been that with the younger or unknown artists that I've taken on, I've done quite well with them because the price points tend to be lower. And that seems to work much better, at least for me, in selling online, meaning via email, etc. What worries me much more is that the market is going to change to the extent that galleries are going to become, I don't want to say useless, but everyone has now moved online, especially artists have started selling directly themselves. Now, I understand that it's a good thing because you're making a living, but you're also building your career. You're not building your career in a way that a gallery can help with. So one of the things that I can do, because I've had a gallery for whatever, 27 years, if I take on a young artist, I have a huge mailing list, and I get museum people who will look at my emails. But the museum curators are not necessarily going to look at all the individual artists that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the part that worries me, is that the role of the gallery will be forever changed by this.
Yeah, I was reading an article, and I totally agree with you. I think that's where our support, that's where, the sort of imprimatur of a gallery, or the authority that a gallery or a fair can impart on somebody's work, becomes vital. I think in many ways, pushing them beyond an entry-level career. And so I think you're very right, and I'm so very anxious to go see work again. I think we've reached about the end of things, but it looks like Osceola wants to say something.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of galleries, and I really feel like as an artist, one of the important things is that you don't sell stuff on the side if you're in the same city as a gallery, or it's a work that someone sees at a show. I think that bond is going to have to be, you figure out a way to make that work. But I absolutely agree that that's what I want, is for the gallery to handle that and not to be dealing with IMs. But I would like to say, like, just as in general, that all of us collectively have some agency over how this is all going to play out, not only in terms of our behavior of going back out to see art when it's available, but I think more specifically about buying art in galleries. And I think that I think it was a recent discovery, or I didn't always realize how important it was to be part of the process of buying art in galleries. And I think that it's something that, if we want galleries to be available to see art in the future, we all need to sort of make a commitment to support them. And I think about, I had a show at a gallery in Ojai, at Porch Gallery, which is a lovely gallery. And it's one of, I think, 2 galleries in Ojai. And what impressed me about that program is I spoke to about a half dozen people during that time, and they each had told the same story, which is that we all buy art here because we understand that we need to buy art so that this venue stays in our town. And I don't know how to upscale that to a big city where there's so many other cultural options, but I really do feel that people have to understand that this is the same relationship that we had with our newspapers and with the local hardware store. And if we don't step up as a community, the galleries won't be able to stay in business. And so as a collector, that's something I'm aware of. And I've been looking at this wall space for some time. There's, I think there is an opportunity now with people, living some more at home and maybe, having some holes to fill in their hopefully salon style exhibition space. But I do feel like that we can all sort of, just be aware that we are part of the solution.
I agree with you 100%. Laura, is there something else that we should be putting in
There's
here?
just a couple other things. One, Mark Curzon has a question about online presence for galleries. And then here's a question from Christopher Glenn. What role should we lend to documenting the creative process that the artist has undertaken in their work? Would it enhance the ability to connect with an audience?
Well, I can answer the last question fairly easily, and I'll leave the first question to somebody else who wants to speak. But that's where my entire life has been about trying to marry film and art in some ways, and I think that a film about an artist can provide an incredible insight into their work, posthumously or during their lifetime, because it reveals personal aspects of that artist that make you want to meet them and buy their work. That works. It works. It's always worked. And that is one way we can bridge the gap between, and I'm self-serving here a little bit, but it's one way we can bridge the gap between what our concerns are about online presence versus experiencing art in person. The first question was about online.
Online viewing.
I can just jump in real quick. I just wanted to say that I think that a lot of photographers are going to spring out of this pandemic and shut down with, an invigorated sort of career based on what they've experienced over the shutdown. Certainly, photo print sales, as Claudia was talking about, are spiking in a bunch of cases. I personally have sold a ton of prints in the last 7-8 weeks because it's like comfort photography for my old work. But I think that there's a big opportunity moving forward in terms of the relationship between buyers and gallery goers and that human experience. I think galleries are going to come out on the far end of this in a much, much stronger spot. The ones who can obviously make it through all of this.
Yeah, that's actually a big concern of ours at the Venice Institute of Contemporary Art, is whether or not we're going to reopen. Big questions for all of us. I want to thank everybody for being at the panel and watching us do our thing. The experience, we have one, I really want to make this one last question, but Laura, can you look at SP Harper's question? SP Harper, if you want to put your question up there, she can take a look and we'll see if we want to ask it right now.
Where is it?
I'm not sure if she might be typing it. She was waving her hand. So I just want to see if we can get to it, if it's a question we want to answer, or we haven't covered or something like that. But I do want to say to everybody, Claudia James-Bartlett from Photo LA, her virtual Connect is June 27th and 28th. I urge you all to go see it. It's going to be fantastic, as her shows are always great and very important historically as well. Contemporary and historically. Yes, Claudia.
Oh yeah. So we've got a huge program going. We've got over 70 galleries and 6 installations, as I had mentioned before, and a lot of programming as well. So if you can buy a ticket, we tried to keep the booth pricing very low. Oh, thank you. We are counting on ticket sales, box office sales a bit to make this a go, because it's a little more expensive than you realize. You always budget and then you figure it out as you go. So you can buy a ticket. We're using this WOVA app, which is a mobile app, but you can also access it through the desktop. However, the interconnectedness is really on the app on your phone, not quite as much on the desktop. On the desktop, you'll be able to see all the 3D booths. There'll be a link on each of the exhibitors' pages within the app, which then will take you to a 3D booth that's actually housed on the back side of our website. And we'll be able to see those June 27th and 28th. And there's a lot of programming, so I hope you'll join us. I think it should be great. And the app too, the great thing about the app is that you can come and you can interact with people through the app. So that's a little bit different than some of the other fairs that have put out there that are more of a web page. This actually has that interactive piece. So, and
Wonderful.
we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
I'm so excited to see the work, especially since you have so many new people coming on this year internationally.
Yeah, vetted it. I think we were able to vet it, and so in a way that I think will give people, a very broad spectrum of work.
Great. And Tarrah, I really like your new work. Really enjoy it. Can't wait to come see the gallery, and you're opening June 20th. And I urge everybody to take a look at Osceola's work on his website and buy art if you can. Because I think that's one way we can enjoy our isolation in some way. Receiving a package in the mail or a delivery is a cool thing for a lot of us now. And so buy art if you can, and enjoy galleries and museums when they open again. But meantime, do your best with the online experience and enjoy it as best you can.
And don't forget the FAFF Fine Art Film Festival, which is ongoing. I have that up on the screen here. And
yes, Fine Arts Film Festival is ongoing, June 8th through the 14th. We just found out, we got in the New York Times on Sunday in the print edition. We just found out that Flash Art is doing a little something about us, so I'm really excited about getting the word out. It started on a Monday, so now when you've got time this weekend, watch films. You can watch the whole festival for $20. It's 92 films. It's the Marcel Duchamp, The Art of the Possible, is premiering on our festival. It's the first full-length bio of Marcel Duchamp. We've got a film from the Dolly Foundation, which sent us another film this year about Dolly's early diaries.
Right.
Which is interesting. Yep. And we have some just incredible films.
Oh, I love that one about that artist from Biennial with the Icelandic artist. I think it's called Chromo Sapiens.
Yeah, Chromo Sapiens is a great one. Yeah, people have been calling in, and if you watch the films online, call me and tell me. Like, I don't mind phone calls. I love phone calls nowadays. So if you like something, pick up the phone and say, this film needs an award, because I have to decide the awards with my crew tonight, like before the end of the day, so that I can get them dealt with. We're having an award ceremony on the night of the 13th, which I believe is Saturday night.
On Zoomcast, I'm guessing. And yeah, also, Zoomcast. Enjoyed this Zoomcast. I know that you're recording it and you're going to make it available online. Not exactly. That you can watch it again, but perhaps there's a friend that might, be interested.
Yeah, and I encourage everybody to have a great day, enjoy yourselves, buy some art, read a good book, and write in your journals if you can. Everybody take it easy. I want to thank Osceola and Laura for organizing this, and Osceola for the inspiration for this. I want to thank Claudia and Tarrah and all the audience members, everybody. Thank you so much for all your questions and comments. And this will be online as of tomorrow morning, probably later today if possible. So you can go to our website and check it out. Everybody have a great day. And stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.